this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Get It Right Texoma with the trio. Mike Hendren, Terry McAdams, and Trey Serralo. Welcome.
Howdy.
Glad to have you. He said howdy. That's Texan for hello. Welcome to the show. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, you know we're on YouTube. But we're also on Apple Podcast and on Spotify as well. Be sure and check out our website, GetItRightTexoma.com. We're here to inform and hopefully entertain you a little bit. We try to focus on events and news in the local area, but we also throw in some regional, state, and national news and opinions as well. We also have some very interesting guests that pop in from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have got quite a slate of guests scheduled over the next several weeks, so you don't want to miss anything coming up because we got a lot of guests and a lot of good guests coming on the show. A few political figures thrown in there and some other things.
We don't have
as well.
bad guests.
No, we don't.
don't.
We
No,
don't.
no.
We don't know anybody that's awful.
No.
We don't.
Well, I know some awful people, but I wouldn't have them on the
Well,
podcast.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to. Now that I think about it, there's one or two jerks that I wouldn't want near this place
No, yeah.
because they're just going to spoil the vibe, man. Yeah. That's a very 60s thing. Spoil the vibe, man.
Dude. Yeah.
Anyway, again, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. It is brought to you by Eddie Hills Fun Cycles, located at 401 North Scott in downtown Wichita Falls since 1966. EddieHillsFunCycles.com.
That's
Come buy something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hustler mowers, too, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. When we have kind of our newest thing is, if we will on service, we have pickup and delivery on service. If you have a platinum maintenance program with us or an extended service contract, we'll actually come and pick your machine up. We'll either do it at your location or pick your machine up and bring it to our location and deliver it back to you. And we also have on parts and accessory orders over $50, we have free delivery in town delivery.
Cool.
So
Very cool.
yep.
Yeah. You added a new line recently, didn't you?
Segway is probably the newest line that we have.
Yeah, that's what I was,
Yeah.
okay.
Segway side by sides.
Okay.
the mowers. There's still the robo.
We're working
still
on that.
working on that. Okay, that's to come.
We will have a robotic mower. Well, we actually have some of the equipment in there. They put an antenna up, or we're going to install an antenna on our building, and then they'll have antennas other places. Some of these robotic mowers, I don't want to waste anybody's time, but some of these robotic mowers, they use GPS. Well, this one has its own network that's built out. And so they'll triangulate so you can go further out. And you don't have to worry about satellites and cloud cover and all that other stuff. And so it's kind of a neat, you're not relying on somebody else's network, you're relying on Christ's network. But,
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this podcast also brought to you by MacTech Solutions. Speaking of tech, MacTech Solutions, located at 4020
When you start going to
Ray Road.
robots.
Yeah. Robot assistants or, whatever.
Yeah.
When they're affordable.
I want you to get those dogs that walk weird. You need to get those dogs in here.
Well, for a while, several years ago, probably 10 years ago, we were looking at, I literally, for $1,000, I think, it's a little, you put an iPad on it. And it's like a Segway. It self-balances.
Right.
But it rolls around your house. Well, Mike, who worked for us at the time, Mike Brazil, he moved to Houston, and he worked for us. And so we thought, well, what if we bought one of those and put an iPad on it, and he ran around the store. He could help customers, But we never did that. But, so I was close to a robot.
Oh, gosh. Well, MacTech is located, again, 4020 Ray Road, Wichita Falls, Suite 3B, MacTech-Solutions.com. Also sponsoring this podcast, Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop, lpsweet.com, the website. On Facebook at Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop, and Lolly is spelled Lollie, Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop on Facebook. So let's get into it here. We've got the Wichita Falls Parks and Recreation Summer Camps going on. It's $100 per child for a 2-week session.
Right, and I think next week is going to be the last session. So.
Okay, and two elementary campuses taking part in this, Jefferson and Scotland Park.
Correct.
And so you can contact Cindy Cummings over at Wichita Falls Parks and Rec for details. But this is your last week. If this week coming up is your last week, you better get in now.
That's right. But give your kids something to do, to get out in nature a little bit. They're going to be at the campuses. It's not like they're going to be out in the wilderness or anything, but at least they're not sitting in front of their computer.
Yeah. And if you look at that, that's $10 a day.
Yeah, it's cheap. Yeah. You can't get a babysitter for $10 a day.
No. Trust me, I know you can't. So, that is a good deal. And then let's see here. We've got coming out August 30th, Camp Out with Base Camp Lindsay. Base Camp Lindsay is a camp that's being built out for homeless veterans. They're trying to build houses, basically.
Yeah.
I know they've had a couple different iterations of this over the years that they've been trying to work on. And but is it going to be a fundraiser for them?
I believe so. Yeah, don't have a lot of information out. As we get closer, we'll put out more information. But this is going to be. I think this is going to be more of like a veterans homeless awareness type campaign.
Okay.
But I think they want you to go out and actually camp out there.
Okay.
Which you go right ahead if you want to go camp out in August. I am not down with that.
Yeah, it's going to be
hotter than the hubs of hell.
You're
welcome to do it, and I think it's a great organization and a great cause.
Yeah, it is. And even though right now
I'll kick them $50 and stay in the air conditioner.
No kidding. We're enjoying some really unseasonably cooler weather.
Yeah,
here for the
still
next
the
few
90s.
days.
Yeah.
The good news,
it's not 100.
That's true.
Plus,
it's still hot during the day, but the difference is it's actually cooling off at night. Yeah. This is what a lot of people in the country find. They see, like it gets to be 100 degrees in Nebraska, and it gets to be 100 degrees in Iowa. Yeah. But the difference is it's here it'll be 105 degrees in the daytime, and it gets all the way down to 97 degrees at night.
Yeah.
Whereas up there, it gets down to 70 degrees at night or 68 degrees at night, and that makes a huge difference because it's not hot all day. When you're 100 degrees and you get down to, let's even say in the 80s, like 89 degrees at night, it's in the 90s by 10 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it just never cools off. Right. Whereas in a lot of places that are farther north of us, they'll get hot, but they cool off at night and then they warm up, but you're not hot the whole day.
Right.
So you have a little bit of a break.
Well, we're not super humid, but it does keep the heat in. And whereas when you get further north, you get a little drier air.
Fortunately, we're far enough from the coast that we don't.
Except for we've had a lot of humidity this year.
Well,
we have.
It's been unseasonably humid this year.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. Normally the grass is brown by now. Whose grass is brown?
No, nobody.
I mean, my goats can't keep up in my backyard.
24 inches of rain for us since January.
Right.
Between January and June, about 24 inches of rain, which is unusual for us to have that much rain. Yeah. And to have it the way we had it, sometimes, 2, 3, 4 inches at a time.
Right. And then it stays around, and then it'll be dry for like a couple of weeks, but then it rains again. But it's the humidity in the air. I mean, it's not just the rain and then it turns into desert again. It'll stay humid for a few months or a few weeks. Yeah.
I had some bare patches in my lawn last year that ain't bare anymore.
Nah. Like I said,
they grassed in.
I've got 6 goats that live in my backyard. We've got a backyard's like a third of an acre. I've got 6 goats in the backyard. They can't keep up. I need to mow, but I don't want to mow because I know it's good grass, and at some point it's going to die out. So I haven't mowed, but there's times my little ones that are about a year old, their little bellies are only about that far off the deck there, off the grass. It's funny watching them.
Can't eat anymore.
I got one of them that's little short, stubby legs, and she's funny looking out there.
Hey, we've been featuring some local eateries on the podcast here lately.
It's also known for restaurants as well.
Restaurants, eateries, that kind of thing, and seriously, truly locally owned places. And this particular episode, we're going to talk a little bit about a restaurant called Jefe's.
They have 2 locations. They have one in Wichita Falls on Southwest Parkway, and they have one in Henrietta, actually.
Yeah.
But they've been owned since 2008.
Yeah.
And I talked to the manager last night. Went there and ate dinner last night. And then after I was done, and by the way, just so you know, I don't talk to people before I pay my bill. I pay my bill. I'm not where nobody's angling to get any money or anything free out of this. But so I wait till I completely pay the bill, ready to walk out the door, talk to the manager, and say, hey, by the way.
But you stole the menu.
But she handed me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't steal anything.
Okay.
She handed this to me, but I always ask, I said, is there anything you want us to kind of highlight? And she said her family packages. So, for instance, you can get a fajita family package that feeds 4 to 6 people, chicken for $50 and steak for $55.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, if you go to a restaurant and sit down and get fajitas, you're going to pay what, $15 a head?
At least.
At least.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, and so
steak,
you can feed 4 to 6 people. So if you even do 4, say if you fed 4, they have taco packages, 12 crispy tacos for $39, and their tacos are really good and they're meaty. That's what I had last night was tacos. They're not these little fold over Jack in the Box fold over with about a teaspoon of meat in them.
You can't beat a good taco.
Oh hell no! But anyhow, so Jefe's restaurant, check them out. They're on Southwest Parkway. They've got really good food, really nice, good service, good people there, and they're open pretty much normal business hours.
Here, what are their hours?
Joe Martin and I had lunch there together a couple of months ago.
Mad Joe Martin.
Me and Mad Joe Martin. Martin.
They're not.
But they're also in Henrietta, by the way. So I've eaten at their
Maybe
restaurant in Henrietta, same menu and all that, same family and all that.
They're not. I guess they don't have that. So
Yeah,
there.
just check them out somewhere. They have regular business hours.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
they don't have. I don't think they have weird hours or anything like that. And they're open in
good.
the evenings and stuff like that.
Good.
But they're on Southwest Parkway, and then they're on Eichard Street, West Eichard Street in Henrietta, which is right off the square.
Yep.
If you're right there they're on the southeast corner of the square.
Eichard is probably the first, maybe the only traffic light in downtown Henrietta.
Yeah,
Or at least the first one, I think.
Yeah, the main traffic light's on Business 82, and then you go over. But Jefe's, good Mexican food, good people, very wide range of stuff. I mean, you can get your quesadillas, your fajitas, your tacos, several different ways of tacos, your chimichangas, your chili rellenos, and all sorts of stuff there.
well, there's their.
Check them out.
Yep. All right. So let's talk a little bit about TxDOT. They've announced a $7.5 million road construction project, several projects, group of projects in Wichita Falls, and this is gonna go from East Scott Avenue to US 281, FM 2380, Southwest Parkway to State Highway 79, and then out to Professional Drive in 1954.
Yeah, East Scott Avenue to US 281, it's called SL 473. It's just it's a slip road. It's a road, one road that goes through there. But the nice thing about this is we're getting roads fixed. I know people like to bitch and complain about road construction. Well, you can't fix the roads without doing road construction.
True.
And so I know it's an inconvenience at times.
That's got to happen.
But if you don't fix these roads, they'll deteriorate. It's like I've heard people. This is one of those dumb things that people say because they've heard it and they said it over and over and they don't think about it. They go, "There's always construction on I-35." Yeah, no shit. I-35 is how many miles? And then at some point, if you started here at the north of I-35 and you started going south, at some point you got to start over. There will always be road construction on I-35 because it's not a 10-mile stretch,
and it's heavily traveled.
and it's heavily trafficked.
Now
Yes.
let's not leave out Central Freeway though in Dallas. Central Freeway's been under construction since 1871.
That's right, but but you have those long roads, and it takes a while they do one section, and they move down and do another section, and move down and do another section, and then they got to go back and start over.
I will tell you the thing though that kind of irritates me a little bit is we'll tear up 10 miles of road at a time, but we can only fix a couple of miles at a time.
Yeah, there are some of the things they do sometimes seem inefficient to me. Yeah. Honestly, one of the things that I'm surprised at, and I've seen this a little bit in the Metroplex, I'm surprised they don't do road construction at night.
Yeah.
I mean, they could
do sometimes. I've seen them.
Yeah,
work.
but what I'm saying is, why don't they exclusively do road construction at night? You have less traffic. Yeah. You have generators out there, and now there may be a reason, and somebody from TxDOT may be able to say, "Hey, it's not efficient," but to me, it's cooler. Now, I understand during the wintertime you wouldn't necessarily want to do that, but during the summertime, it's much cooler during the summertime to do it. I think your production would go up. I would think it would go up, and those generators light up the sky. I mean, it looks like daylight out there.
I would guess personnel probably has something to do with that.
It might, but look at factories.
Yeah, I
I mean,
know.
you go to PPG, if you go to work, and has PPG ever been out of people? Or it used to be PPG, Vetro, or what's it called?
Vitro
here. Have you ever heard that they're out of people?
No.
No, and they've got the goofiest schedule where it's like a rotating shift.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I would hate something like that where you don't even. It's like you go 2 weeks of days and 2 weeks of nights or something like that. I mean, I don't know. I think it's one of those deals. I think there'll be a lot of pushback at first, but at some point, everybody needs a job. And if you go, look, this is going to be good for you because you're not standing out in the sun, and we need to make some adjustments, and it's good for the taxpayer. If it's good for everybody, it's good for everybody. And if it's not, it's not. I'm not saying it is, and I'm not one of those people that goes, oh, by God, this is what they ought to do when I don't know the dollars and cents of it.
Let me throw a little sidebar at you here, and we can go deeper into this later. But I saw an announcement yesterday that Amtrak is considering a line through Wichita Falls again.
Yeah, Ron Kitchens was talking about it and said it could be 10 years, though, before we ever see it.
Well, there's a lot of – they're doing their due diligence studies now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of rail construction that would have to happen because apparently they would have to run some parallel lines to what, like right now we've got the Fort Worth and Denver and a couple other railways that run through here. They would have to run some parallel lines to do this. But they are apparently there was a little delegation from Wichita Falls that went to Washington, D.C. back in the spring. They met with some folks from Amtrak and discussed some plans. There are plans to do high-speed rail from Houston, I think, to Dallas. And that would be like some 200-mile-an-hour high-speed rail stuff.
Right.
Like
the bullet train type stuff.
Yes, that kind of stuff. The one that would come through here would be a more, 80 to 100-mile-an-hour trains,
it's from Dallas then to Denver, I think.
Yeah,
right?
it's using us as a connector between Dallas and Denver, exactly.
Right. And then, but because it's such a short flight, well, it is like a short flight because it actually would take more time. The flight would be less, but for the long haul, once you get on the stretch headed that way, would be just a stopping point. But yeah, that's why they'd only go probably 8
Well, it depends on that flight. It depends on, how much delay you have getting through airport security.
It's like a 30-minute flight.
And whether or not they divert
From where? Wichita Falls to Denver?
No, from Dallas.
Dallas to Wichita Falls.
Dallas to Wichita Falls.
I'm sorry. I was like going,
yeah.
Hey, you smoking crack.
No, not to Denver. But anyway, the idea that I'm thinking is it's a slower leg of the trip. It would be certainly capable of going up to if they saying 200 miles an hour.
Well,
on this train
on the high speed rail, the Houston to Dallas line would be one of the high speed. We wouldn't be that high speed.
Probably not 200 between here and there. But then I imagine if we don't know what the leg looks like between here and Denver. Then,
well, and again, this is the thing. There's a lot of
slow down to about 50 miles an hour in Wichita Falls and go jump.
Well, unless they stop in Lubbock, maybe. I would think they would want to because
knowing how some of these airlines work, I can see you getting
go through Lubbock unless you'd have to go out of the way to go from here to Denver to go.
Not
to
Lubbock. I'm sorry, I meant Amarillo.
I can see where your flight might get diverted to Frederick, Oklahoma, or something, and you have to stop there and get a new team of mules or something, and then go on. Yeah. But anyway, it's an interesting concept. Hopefully, it happens. We'll probably know more next year as to whether this is actually going to happen.
Are people and I'm all for any kind of progress, but are people really riding trains?
Yes.
Okay.
Not like they used to.
Maybe they are. I don't know. I don't know anybody. I don't remember. I don't know anybody who's been on a train in the last 20 years.
Here's the thing.
In America. It's expensive.
In America.
Here's the thing. Amtrak has not had a great reputation the last 30, 40 years. Right. Okay. A lot of problems. A lot of problems since
Joe Biden rode them all the time.
Government took it over. Yeah. Well, Joe Biden was a train conductor, don't you know?
Yeah. Wasn't Corn Pop with him or something like that?
Yes, Corn Pop. He was pulling the whistle. Yeah. But anyway, so where were we? Yes, but I think that the high speed rail, like the Houston to Dallas, that concept has merit because you're looking at people who are commuting for work.
Right.
And they don't want the hassle of having to get on a plane, go through all the security stuff, fly there, then have to get back on a plane, fly back. It would just be quicker if they can just walk into a train station, buy a ticket, board a train, and an hour and a half later, they're back home.
Right, but I guess my question is, but how many people are commuting compared to what they did 10 years ago? Well, there's a lot more people that are working remotely now. I'm not saying. Look, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this.
I don't think this is a commuting thing.
Well, he just said commuting. That's why I'm saying.
I think you're going to have a lot of people that will commute for work purposes. Yes.
Look, I'm not saying that nobody rides trains. I don't know. I simply know in your world. Think about it. Yeah. The people you know. Who do you know that has taken a trip on a train in America in the last 20 years?
I actually know 2 people.
Okay, so 2 people in 20 years
that have done it.
Okay,
within the last 7 or 8 years.
2 people in the last 7 or 8 years.
One of them had a really horrible experience.
Right. Well, I don't know any, and I'm not saying but what I'm simply saying is between 3 of us. Yeah. How many do you know?
I don't.
Okay, so between 3 of us. In the last decade, there's been 2 people. So 3 of us know 2 people that have taken trips on trains. I'm not saying there's not people that don't do it. I'm just simply saying I don't know how widespread it is in this part of the country. Well, there may be parts of the country.
I think
in Europe. I know that.
Obviously, you look at Denver. You look at the population of Denver, Colorado. I don't know what it is, 6-8 million.
Oh, I don't think it's that big.
But maybe
No, but if you take Aurora and stuff like that, the greater Denver
metro area
could be because Aurora is pretty good size.
Well, it's like the Dallas. It's like the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area.
Yeah.
Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, Denton,
mid-cities.
all the mid cities. You combine all that together, there's a bigger population in the Dallas metro area than in like 14 U.S. states.
Yeah. Well, they're saying that.
It's huge.
They're saying that our experts are saying that it's possible by 2030 or 2035 that the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area will be larger than Los Angeles. Los Angeles, because Los Angeles metro area, Los Angeles
is a town, and then there's everything around it. Yeah,
Los Angeles is huge. Don't get me wrong. The city of Los Angeles is big, but when you start going to Anaheim and all that, when they run together, they literally just run together, kind of like they're doing in Dallas.
Yeah. So, something to add to this, the whole Amtrak thing. Several years ago, I don't remember when it was exactly, but it was since we've been here. I got a call from, I think it was TxDOT. They wanted to know if it would be okay if they sent over someone to hang out outside as customers came in and to ask them for survey about that exact thing, about this Amtrak.
Wow.
That we're seeing now, yeah. And so it was a contract worker.
Sure.
They hired like a gig.
So this is something that's probably been on the radar for a while.
So, yep.
Yeah.
And I think there's a market for it. How big the market is, I don't know.
Well, if somebody thinks it's big enough, I always look at it this way. If somebody looks like there's enough for them to invest their money in, they probably think there's a big enough market.
Well, but here's the thing, though. Remember, Amtrak is fully subsidized by the federal government. This is not a for-profit.
So if that's the case, it could be go one way or another.
Right. My dad was a train engineer, and as a kid, theoretically, we could have had passes on Amtrak. That was before they were. I'm trying to remember when. I'll look it up here, but I think the federal government took it over because they didn't want it to go under. And we got to have rail service, so they've been subsidized. Now up in the Northeast, Amtrak is a big deal. I mean, they have a higher density of population,
and there's people who don't have cars.
And I don't know if they make money up there, but But my point is that here,
well,
that's why trains are so popular in Europe. You have a lot of the population who doesn't own a car,
right?
So if they want to go travel somewhere, they either have to rent a car or they have to jump on a train.
Yeah, but why don't they own a car?
Because they don't need to. Their population.
Also because where are they going to park it? There's a lot of places where you don't have dedicated parking spaces.
Well, that's like New York City, but there's a lot of places to park. But a lot of it is they just don't need it. Yeah. I mean, if you live in just like in Boston or New York City, if you live in Manhattan, most people in Manhattan don't need a car.
I had a friend that lived in Manhattan for several years. Worked for a company on Manhattan Island. And they didn't own. He and his wife, they didn't own cars. They didn't have a car. They took, trains and cabs and whatever. This was before Uber and all that. And he told me at that time. This has been over 20 years ago now. At that time, for him to own a car, and he would have to rent a parking garage space to park his car. Mm-hmm. and would still have to walk like 5 blocks to his apartment.
Yeah.
Wasn't like there wasn't one right next to his apartment. He would have to walk blocks to his apartment. The parking garage would have cost him 1/2 of what his rent was in his apartment.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And it was $2,000 a month back then
Yeah.
for a decent apartment there. Hell, now it's like $5,000. But it would have cost him $1,000 a month to park his car.
Yep. Oh, I know.
He's
It's
like,
crazy.
you can't financially justify
That's
that.
why so many people don't have
So
them.
you commute
But
public,
or they don't
public
need it.
transport.
You know, they use public transportation and
Right,
stuff like
and
that.
that's what they did. They were up there for 7 or 8 years, and the whole time that they lived there, they used public transportation exclusively, or they walked.
Yeah.
There were a lot of times when they would walk more than 3 blocks from their house to go eat.
Yeah.
In this past week, we've had some very famous people die
Yes.
in one weekend.
in one weekend. Now there've been several celebrity deaths recently, but the most recent ones. Dr. Ruth Westheimer, who I didn't even know was still alive, to
that
be
was a little
honest.
bit of a surprise to me.
She was like 96,
Something
I think.
like that, yeah.
Richard Simmons,
Yep.
the sweating to the oldies, yeah, that guy. Big fitness guru back in the 80s. He was huge.
I label this Legends of the 80s because Dr. Ruth was around before the 80s, but she really hit prominence with the explosion of TV and cable.
Well, she got her own cable TV show.
That's the thing, and which cable hit in the 80s.
Yeah.
Richard Simmons hit prominence in the 80s, and Shannen Doherty, it was towards the end of the 80s, but Shannen Doherty hit prominence in the 80s. What, 90210 didn't come out in the 80s?
Right. So Shannen Doherty, her acting career really took off with Little House on the Prairie in the early 80s.
Right.
She was a little girl.
Oh,
Yeah.
She was on Little House on the
Yeah,
Prairie.
she was on Little House
toward
on the
toward
Prairie.
the end of the series. Toward the end of the series. And then she was on a show called Our House
Yep.
with Wilford Brimley.
Yep. She was on with some big names.
Yes.
I mean, Little House on the Prairie was massive, and Our House, I don't think that show was huge, but Wilford Brimley was a huge name.
Yes. So she did that show for a couple of years. Then Beverly Hills 90210 comes along, and that goes into the 90s. And then she had another series called Charm. She played a witch.
That was a long running show.
It was on for a number of years.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. There was some big names in that. Oh, Sam from
Crazy Girl. Yeah.
Sam from Who's the Boss?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was on there for a long time, and then Rose McGowan was on there. That if you look at that there was a time. I think one lady wasn't batshit crazy on that show on the Charm.
One consistent actress.
Yeah, there's one lady who never came off as crazy, but Shannen Doherty was well known for being nutty off the air.
Well, I think she was kind of perceived as difficult to work with, and she may have been difficult to work with.
But Rose McGowan turned out to be kind of a nutcase. Yeah. Rose McGowan was actually kind of the ground zero for the Me Too movement. She was kind of the one that started that.
Yeah.
And then I forgot her name. I'm losing Sam from Who's the Boss.
I know I can't think of her name either.
Alyssa Milano.
Thank you.
She's the one who weeps, who lays it next to her daughter and weeps openly because Trump was the president.
Yes.
So
anyway, but Shannen Doherty, she had been battling cancer for the last several years, and she lost that battle this past weekend.
Yeah. So anyhow, it was just ironic that you had 3 people that kind of rose to prominence in the 80s.
Yeah.
And because I don't think Richard Simmons, I'd never heard of Richard Simmons before the 80s.
Well, Richard Simmons, he'd been living kind of a reclusive life for the last several years. He apparently had not left his house.
It was a little strange. I know this is going to be hard shocking.
No.
If it was, I'm glad you guys are sitting down that you weren't.
No.
And Mike, please don't get offended on Richard's behalf that I said he was a little strange. But all you had to do is look at the shorts and know that he was strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow.
So anyway, I think he was 76. Shannen Doherty was only 53. She's our age.
Yeah.
And that's not old anymore.
No,
Any
not at
stretch
all.
at all.
Well, you get cancer, you get cancer.
I know.
A friend of the old radio show and Wichita Falls native and a friend of all of ours, Steve Garner, was actually one of the delegates, or is, as we're recording this. The RNC is still going on. I think tonight's the final night as we're recording this. Recording it on Thursday. But he's actually up there as one of the delegates. I shot him a message a couple days ago and said, "Hey, congratulations for getting up there." And he said he's having the time of his life up there.
Yeah.
So
it's a good deal. It's well, it looks like it's probably fun. but also a little bit crazy too. When you consider what led into this last Saturday, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the idea that a would-be assassin was able to be on the roof of a building.
Oh, there's a great explanation. Mike, you didn't hear the explanation of why they didn't have a cop on that roof?
The slope?
It was sloped too much. Okay, guys, let me give you a little roof update here. If you hear somebody talk about roofs, they'll say 14 or 14.2 or 12.2 or whatever it is. And it's like it drops 2 inches for every 12 inches or 2 inches for every 14 inches or 4. And I think a 412 is a pretty standard pitch
That's
roof.
a standard residential pitch is a 412.
412, which means every 14 inches it drops 2 inches of elevation. That wasn't that was not even a 14.2 pitch roof. I don't know. It was probably a 212 or a 14.2.
It was very...
That roof was almost basically, if you
almost flat.
Flat. You would call it a flat roof. Look, flat roofs, when you hear somebody say flat roofs, they're not dead flat. If they were dead flat, water wouldn't go anywhere. Generally, they have a little, if you put like a tennis ball or something like that and put it on a quote-unquote flat roof, it's going to roll somewhere. It's going to roll, and usually they have downspouts. Uh-huh. And that tennis ball will roll around and go to a downspout. Yeah. There's got to be some pitch, because if you don't have any pitch at all, and especially if you have a parapet roof, the water would just literally stay there.
Yeah.
But this building had just enough pitch that it would shed water.
Yeah.
You know, it had just enough of a crown to cause it to shed water.
Like my shop has.
Exactly.
It's very slight, but
But by the way, if the guys who had to go up there to get the dead guy, the Secret Service killed, if they were able to get up there and haul a dead guy down, surely a guy could climb up in the roof and lay down and shoot a gun. Yeah. To me, that was
he brought a ladder, right? Has that been confirmed?
I believe so.
I just think that was one of the dumbest things that I heard from a secret. I mean, look, I would much rather the Secret Service chief come out and go, you know what, we screwed up. Well, that was a mistake. We made a mistake. Yeah. We should have had a police officer up there. But to come up with this bullshit excuse, we didn't put somebody up there because the roof was pitched, was insane.
I was reminded yesterday that there was an incident back in the mid-'80s. I think it was at the beginning of Reagan's second term. He was giving a speech, and a guy was actually able to get on the stage. He threw something at Reagan in Reagan's direction, and it broke. And he actually was able to get right up next to Reagan before the Secret Service grabbed him.
Yeah.
So somehow he was able to access the stage. So things happen. But this is the thing, though. This was a well-planned event. It was outdoors. Yeah. You had eyes on the perimeter. Yeah. Somebody, and apparently several somebodies did spot him, but nobody did anything about him.
Just don't come up with bullshit excuses. Just come up and say, look, we made a mistake. We're going to learn from this. Fortunately, nobody died. The president died. Let me couch it. No, our target, our target that we're protected didn't die. Unfortunately, there was a gentleman in the crowd that died. Yes, and there were some people that were injured. So from a Secret Service, from an operational standpoint, they can look at it and say it was wasn't a lack of success. Our target, the guy we're protecting, lived. Unfortunately, somebody else died. So it was a massive failure. But you come out, you say, hey, look, we made a huge mistake. This isn't going to happen again. These are the protocols that we're putting in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. But don't come up with bullshit excuses.
Well, I do know that Donald Trump did contact the widow of the man who was killed.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Well, I guess he's going to attend the funeral.
They have spoken, but she declined a call from Joe Biden.
That's well, I've heard that. I don't know if that's true.
What she did, she said that apparently she explained why.
I don't respect that, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
well, I don't disrespect her. She has a right to do what she wants to do. Don't get me wrong. I'm simply saying I don't look at that as a respectful thing to do. I think that's disrespectful. My opinion. I have a right to my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. It's been wonderful having you. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Get It Right Texoma. Again, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcast as well. Be sure to check out the website, GetItRightTexoma.com. Also find us on Facebook. Do share this on all your social media platforms. And also give us your feedback. We would love to hear you comment on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think about the show. Give us your opinion, your take, good, bad, ugly, whatever. We're big boys. We can take it.
That's right. Absolutely.
Just throw it at us. It's brought to you by Eddie Hills Fun Cycles, EddieHillsFunCycles.com, MacTech Solutions, MacTech-Solutions.com, and Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop, LPSweet.com, and on Facebook as well. Of course, we're all three of our businesses on Facebook as well. So, while you're there pecking around on Facebook, checking out the show page, you might check out our pages too. I mean, it's a suggestion.
And share our pages too.
Yeah, share our pages and, help grow the network.
Yes.
That's what we like. Anyway, guys, take care again. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you down the road.